you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Wednesday, July 26th. It is 1 minute past 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Bittt, Tibi, brewed in Quebec and a winner of a dozen international awards. Bittt, Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. Bittt, Tibi, embrace your true nature. Also brought to you in part by Playground, your premier gaming destination. Playground Summer Million is the must-play poker event of the season, featuring 10 championship ring events, $1 million in guaranteed prize pools, and a $500,000 guaranteed main event located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. Playground. And also brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, recently named by Deloitte CIBC as one of Canada's best managed companies, the country's leading business award recognizing innovative and world-class companies. The best managed Canadian companies designation fuels Energy's purpose of creating progress for their customers, their employees, and their communities. Join a winning team and check out Energy's career page for available opportunities. Joining me right now, recruits and recruits.ca, former scout during the Bob Gainey regime with the Montreal Canadiens, Grant McCagg. What's going on?
Hey, Tony. Just join summer.
Good. I love people like you, and I'm going to tell you why. Because, full disclosure, hosting a Montreal Canadiens podcast on July 26th, when their last game of the season was April 13th, it's not an easy thing to do. The draft is easy. A couple of days before the draft is easy. A couple of days after the draft is easy. 1 month or minus 2 days to a month after the draft, now you start looking for topics. Now you need people like Grant McCagg to come out with articles, come out with tweets, come out with posts to get people riled up, to get people going. And you did just that earlier today. And so for that, I say thank you.
Okay, no problem, Tony. I thought of you when I posted it, and I saw all the replies.
All right, okay. Why don't we tell people what we're going to talk about if they haven't seen it already? And I would tell them to follow you on Twitter at Grant McCagg and follow Recruits Hockey. And by the way, speaking of which, your independent scouting service yourself, and you have a team behind you, and you scout a couple of 100+ games per year. You have, or used to have, an annual subscription. You have a monthly subscription now. It's a very good idea.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I figured, got to compete with the big dogs, right?
Yeah.
It looks a lot cheaper when you put it up monthly, right?
Yeah, no.
Who can't afford $250 a month, for Habs coverage? And I mean, that gives you access to like years of content. You can go back and look at stuff from years ago, hundreds of videos and hundreds of articles, and try it out for a month. If you don't like it, well, fine, move on, but it only costs you $250 to find out.
Yeah, no,
yeah. I think once you join, hopefully you're a customer for life. That's the hope. That's the plan.
That's a very good thought process behind it. I was thinking the same thing today when I saw it. I said, you know what? Some people might be scared to take the plunge. Mind you, under $40, I don't know what you really have to think about. But some will see, a couple of bucks per month. You know what? Let me try it out. What's the worst that can happen? I don't like it. I lose a couple of bucks per month. $2, $3. I like it. I think it's a good idea. Your tweet. earlier today. It's all over the place, by the way. I don't know if you've seen it, but it seems like everyone who covers the Montreal Canadiens or the fans are all talking about what you tweeted earlier today. So here we have it. Can we bring it up? There we go. Montreal's new big three have set themselves apart from the 27 other top prospects, top 5 shown below. Can Mailloux, Reinbacher, and Hudson one day be Montreal's top defense trio since Robinson, Savard, and Lapointe? My column with a link to the rankings: Mailloux 1, Reinbacher 2, Hudson 3. You have Oliver Kapanen at 4 and Owen Beck at 5. But there you have it. The 3 on defense: Mailloux, Reinbacher, Hudson. And I got to tell you something. I'm high on Logan Mailloux, but I haven't seen Logan Mailloux play a lot. The little I've seen him play, obviously the size stands out, the entire package, the frame, the reach, the strength. I like the way he tied up players in front of the net. I like his offensive instincts. You and I saw him at development camp. I got a closer look at him there.
Yeah.
I like him a lot, to the point where I think out of all the players that they have not on the NHL team, I think he has the most complete profile, more than anyone else.
Yeah.
But, you know, my buddy Snake, and everyone's got an opinion here, I get it, and you have yours and he has his. My buddy Snake thinks at best, he's a 6'7" in the National Hockey League. He plays 8 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Scott Wheeler come out with a top prospects list on his publication that he works for, and
Right.
I didn't see Logan Mailloux anywhere in the top 50.
No.
So I sent him a direct message and I said, "Hey Scott, I don't see Mailloux. Where do you have him?" And he said, "Tony, B prospect, he's somewhere in the top 200. I said, "Wow."
Huh.
And then a couple of weeks after that, I see you have him as number 1 Montreal Canadiens prospect. So tell me why.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly don't follow Scott Wheeler's list, that's for sure. I do my own. I don't look at others, but I mean, I don't know how much Scott gets. You know, I do a top prospect. I don't know. You're following the draft, and then you turn around and you how closely can you really scout 200 players that have already been drafted if your job is to be following the draft? You know, so I mean, I don't follow these guys close enough to be saying, well, you know, this prospect from Anaheim should be ranked 14th. Or, I mean, I realize that gets you, you know, that gets you subscriptions and gets you clicks and stuff. But I think you can take those lists with a grain of salt. You know, how much time, you know, I've watched probably over 100, no, I wouldn't say over 100, but 50, at least 50 of Logan Mailloux's games. And I'm sure Scott isn't able to, you know, every prospect in his top 200, if he was watching 50 games each one on top of following the draft, he'd never sleep. So I think the fact that Mailloux's only played 96 OHL games has to be considered. And I don't know that people are, like, even a kid like Reinbacher probably has more experience playing against high-level competition than Mailloux, who never played in an under-18 event, never played in the U20 event, never played at the World Championships, and Reinbacher's had a chance to do all those things. I mean, I don't really see much separating the top 3 guys. You can put them in any order that you want, but certainly from what we saw at the development camp, I think he just keeps getting better. Like, the improvement that he's made since last year when he played with London, when you saw him.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the playoffs, I went back and I'm actually putting together another another article that's going to be scouting his playoff. I didn't really get a chance to scout it heavily because it was during when I was getting the draft guide out, right?
Yeah.
So I was pretty tied up with that. But I was looking back and looking at some stats, and he played in that final series, the 6 games against Peterborough that they lost 4-2. He averaged 33 minutes plus in those 6 games.
Wow.
Like Dale Hunter, like I get a kick out of these guys that say like he can't play defense. Well, Dale Hunter had him out every penalty kill, every shutdown when they needed to shut down the defenseman. Well, I mean, he played 33 minutes a game, and it was average of 26 shifts. So a minute 17 was his average length of shifts, and playing 33 minutes a game. So you have to pace yourself. It's almost like a soccer player, right?
Yeah.
Basically not getting off the ice. So despite that, he still looked really good. I think he was the best defenseman in the OHL playoffs. And that's a kid that only has 100 games of junior experience. And to me, he's just it's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to his potential. So at that camp, sure, he's 2 years older than Reinbacher, but he looked a lot better, at this point. And that's not playing. And that's with Reinbacher having as much or playing against higher level competition the last 2 years in U18s, U20s, World Championships, Swiss League. So certainly right now he's ahead of Reinbacher and Hudson. Like he's closer. I think we can both agree that he's the closest to being ready for the NHL out of those three.
1,000%. I'm going to take it a step further. I think Adam Engstrom is closer to being NHL ready more than Hudson and Reinbacher are too.
I agree.
At the same time, though, they're not on your top. He's not in your top 5 list. Can you tell me why?
Well, I mean, it's not who's the most NHL ready.
I got it.
Right.
It's top end potential.
Who will have the better careers, potentially. But I've got him right there. Like he's top 7. I believe I have him 7th. And I mean, Roy and Engstrom both could have been in the top 5. They're right. Yeah. I got Beck and Kapanen in there, and I realized nobody else has Kapanen at a high, and that's fine. I'm really high on the kid. And Rob Ramage is too. When I've spoken to Rob a couple times about him, and he sees what I see as far as at the World Juniors, he was better than Waugh, like playing a first line center role at the World Juniors. Waugh was really good, but Kapanen's a little bigger, two-way center, really versatile, and had a fantastic year in Liga. It's kids like that, you don't see them, so you can't appreciate fully just how good a prospect he is if you're not really getting to see him.
Yeah.
You see Joshua putting up big points in the Quebec League and playing in the World Juniors, and you watch all the Canadian games. So they're, and Beck's the same deal. But at this point, I think that he's a little better overall prospect than those two. If you were to ask me who I think will be the third line center with the Canadians, 2 years from now, between Beck and him, I give a slight edge to Kapanen, but I love them both.
All right. We talked about Mailloux. I don't know if I've seen a Montreal Canadiens prospect with so many different opinions on one player, but it's either this guy's a stud or this guy's not very good. I still don't get the not very good in Mailloux's case. I'm starting to wonder if it's kind of like a prejudice towards what happened a couple of years ago in his personal life, and because of that, some people just don't want to cheer for the guy as a hockey player. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't like. I respect everyone's opinion. If Snake was here, I'd tell him the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, Snake says he's just good in the Ontario Hockey League because he's big and strong. And I said, well, yeah, but I mean, you know, would you say that about anyone else who's big and strong, right? There's so many other players who are big and strong who went on to have very, very good NHL careers. They did not, you know, they weren't flops just because they were big and strong in junior hockey and they weren't able to do it in the National Hockey League. You know, if you're bigger and stronger than players a year or two apart from you in junior hockey, chances are that continues once you get to the National Hockey League, right? And I don't get it. He's big, he's strong, he's got the reach, he's got the hands, he hits hard, he clears the front of the net, he takes the body.
Good skater.
He's got a good stick. He skates well. He can shoot the puck through a wall.
Yeah.
So what is it then? You talked about the defense. Yeah. Some people aren't sold on his ability to defend. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, he's a little unpolished. Like, he's still got to work on his backward skating, and gets caught maybe standing still on occasion, but you never see him getting clearly beat. Like, he's got such long reach and a quick first step, even when he is standing still, that he gets to the puck carrier and like, nobody beats him really cleanly one-on-one, not very often. And like I say, he's only played 100 major junior games and no other elite level competition. Presumably his defensive game is just going to keep on improving. And, you know, if he was really porous defensively, I respect Dale Hunter so much. And there's just no chance that he would play him 33 minutes a game, you know, and they wouldn't go to the OHL finals with him playing that huge minutes as their top defenseman if he was bad defensively. So I got to go with Dale Hunter's and my own evaluation on that over these other guys.
In what has been arguably the top junior program in the country since Dale has been there, and even before that, right? Arguably. Oh,
yeah. Well, I mean, since he's been head coach, I don't think any junior coach has produced as many NHL players either. Like, it's a prospect factory, London. So I think people, you know, players even get picked a little higher than maybe they normally would, just because they know, you know, the prospects are going back to be tutored by Hunter and his coaching staff. You know, he's produced a pile of them, and Mark Hunter thinks that Mayu's their best defense prospect they've had since John Carlson, for sure. And they've had a bunch. So no, I know, like, NHL scouts, I had one guy tweet me 2 or 3 times last year when he was at games and just saying, holy frick, Mayu is just he's a beast out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, he led the OHL defense in goal scoring. And basically it was a rookie, really. I mean, he only played 16. I guess he wasn't eligible to be the rookie this year, or he'd have run away with it, you know. To lead the OHL in goal scoring in what's really your, you know, basically your rookie season, that's not just big and strong. That's talent. That's talent too.
So I'm thinking about your tweet, because speaking of clicks and speaking about getting people's attention, obviously, I mean, that's a tweet that's going to get a lot of people's attention, right? That Reinbacher, Mayu, and Hudson can be the next big three. Now, you're not saying they're going to be better than the big three, because obviously
no,
that would be pretty impossible to do, because Robinson, Savard, and Lapointe, I mean,
Hall of Famers.
I don't think there's ever been top 3 defensemen on any team that would complete each other better than them, right?
Right, yeah.
That would make for a good question, right? We'd have to think about that one, but pretty hard-pressed to find a team that had 3 defenseman quality of those guys, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been some great duos you can name, you know?
Yeah.
You think Niedermeyer and Stevens, and Pronger, Niedermeyer in Anaheim again, and there's been a bunch, but not many with the big three. I mean, they were named that, aptly named. I don't know who, it might have been Red who came up with that. I'm not really sure. I can't remember, but a very appropriate nickname for those three.
So it got me thinking, though, right? Because the big three, we're looking back at the late 70s, obviously, in the Cup in 76, 77, 78, and 79.
Yeah.
And then the 80s come around, and then Chelios arrives, right? And obviously, Chelios was pretty amazing himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so Chelios is there when they win the Cup in 86, and maybe even prior to that, because Chelios arrived in 83, 84. So at one point, there was Chelios.
Robinson.
There was Robinson. You talked about a duo. Would Svoboda have been their next guy to complete that trio back in the mid 80s? There was Tom Curvers, who had a really good season, but I think it lasted a season or two, not more than that. That team that won the Cup, once again, you have Chelios, you have Robinson. Curvers was there again. So you're right. It's so much easier with the duo than the trio.
Yeah.
The year they went to the final now, in the 93 team that went to the final had Eric Desjardins, Matthew Schneider, and Patrice Brisebois.
Yeah. Hopefully these guys can be better than, with all due respect to Brisebois, who was,
so you know what I was thinking of? Tell me what you think. And I know it didn't last very long, but at one point the Canadians obviously had Subban and Markov. But how did they acquired Jeff Petrie? I think they had Jeff Petrie with them for a couple of years.
Yeah.
That's not too shabby.
Markov was that was after his knee injuries, I believe, and he was he wasn't quite the still smart as can be and stuff, but no. I mean, they got a long way to go to be better than I thought of all those guys.
Yeah, no, but I know, Grant, I know what you're saying, because think about this, okay? The guys that we talked about, some of them were early on in their career, some of them were later on in their career, some of them at Safari. Right. These guys, they're all pretty much the same age.
Exactly.
Couple of years apart. They have a chance to make their way into the National Hockey League at around the same time, give or take a year apart. And all of a sudden they come in. If they end up spending a decade together, playing together on the same team, they can very well be the next big three after Robinson, Savard, and Lapointe.
Yeah, 50 years later, And even those guys, like I think Savard and Robinson, probably about an 8-year age gap, or like I know Savard came in mid-60s, did he not?
Yeah.
Mid to late 60s. Larry didn't really, I think it was 73, 74 for Larry. So it's not like they were the exact same age or anything too. So that's part of it. And it's the three, like Chelios, Curvers, with all due respect, I think 85, 86, he had 30 points,
Yeah.
And he wasn't great defensive. He wasn't a big guy or super fast or a great defensive defenseman. So, all three of these guys hopefully have better careers than Tom Curvers did. The thing is, Reinbacher reminds me a little bit of Savard. And I mentioned it in the article where, just the complete, where maybe he'll, first and foremost, to be a great defensive defenseman, just like Savard was, really smart, complete defenseman who chips in 40 on average. I was looking back at Savard's stats. He had that one super year where he had 20 goals and 40 assists, but that was an anomaly. He never had 50 points in any other season.
Yeah.
And that Reinbacher may not be a 50, 60 point guy. He might be a 40 like Savard was.
Yeah.
But just a shutdown, minute munching, all around complete defenseman. Similar size, similar style, maybe. Mailloux now. I threw out the Robinson comparison, and obviously with he's not going to be Larry Robinson.
I know. People like to have fun with that stuff. All of a sudden you say, look, Mailloux reminds me of Larry Robinson. People are going to be on Twitter. Graham McCagg said that Mailloux is better than Robinson or this or that. Or Graham McCagg doesn't know what he's talking about. He's this, that. Yeah. That's not what Graham McCagg is saying. Because you say someone reminds you of someone or you bring them up in the same sentence doesn't mean you're insinuating that player is better. We know that chances are Logan Mailloux is not going to be better than Larry Robinson. I wouldn't bet not even a penny. Like I wouldn't bet a dime that Mailloux is going to be better than Robinson. But I can understand if people say, you know what, Mailloux, he kind of reminds me of Larry Robinson. The size is there.
Yeah.
The strength is there. The skating ability is there. The shot is there.
Yep.
The taking players out of the play is there. The hip check's going to be there. I get it, man. I understand it.
Yeah. I said in the article, like, if he can be, Larry Robinson light, and Reinbacher can be Serge Savard light, and then Hudson's a reasonable facsimile of Quinn Hughes, who I threw out just as with similar size and an offensive, playmaking, dynamic offensive young 5'9" defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's that could be Montreal's best. If they hit their primes and they hit their ceilings, might be their best trio since the Big Three.
We should just call them, the poor man's Big Three. This way, no one's going to say that we're saying that they're better than them, because they're not better than them.
No.
I hope for these kids that they are, but chances are they won't be. But you know what? I was thinking about something. Think about this now. If one of them doesn't pan out of these top three prospects the way we're projecting they do, they could end up being replaced by Gouli. Gouli could be one of these top three. Gouli could be one of these,
Absolutely.
In that conversation with the poor man's, or Gouli might even be in the conversation. Now, all of a sudden, we could talk about two defense pair. We could talk about a top four now. Top four like the Nashville Predators with PK Subban and Roman Josi and Ryan Ellis and Matthias Ekstrom.
Gouli might end up being the best of
pardon me.
He may be the best defenseman of the four. That's not inconceivable at all. And we'll be calling them the Big Four, right?
Yeah, I watched them last night, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're playing in the. I don't know if you've seen this, but they're playing in the LSHL. It's the Living Sisu Hockey League, which is run by Zach Fucali and his two buddies Oliver and Alex, and they run it out of Hockey Etc. here on Côte-Liesse, and it's 3-on-3 hockey. Grant, you'd love it. It's 3-on-3 hockey. It's 45-minute games, 3 periods of 15 minutes. And you got several Montreal Canadiens players who are playing in it, who obviously are living in Montreal in the offseason. Caden Gouli is playing in it. Nick Suzuki is playing in it. And Raphael R.V. Pinard is playing in it.
Sweet.
And then there's former Montreal Canadiens like Nick Delorier is playing in it. Jonathan Drouin is playing in it. And Marco Scandella is playing in it. And you have a bunch of Montreal boys. Joe Valeno is a Montreal boy who's playing in it. And there's I had the list yesterday, and I don't know if Agnello and Sammy still have it, but if we can If we have the rosters, we can bring them up. I'll show you. If not, I think I
So-
have it over here in my phone because I think I took a picture or two of it.
That answers the question of whether he'll be ready for training camp if he's playing in that.
Oh, yeah, no. He'll be ready. So here are the there we go. Here we go. Good. Okay, so Alexandre Carrier, Jonathan Drouin, Vincent Desharnais, Nicolas Delorier, Laurent Dauphin, a former Hab, Gros, Viel, and Dubois is the goalie, Pierre-Olivier Joseph with his brother Matthew Joseph, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Xavier Burgot, Joe Valeno, Caden Gooley, Samuel Poulain, Devin Levi. And up next, Anthony Beauvillier, Giovanni Fiore, Anthony Manta, Maxime Comtois, Marco Scandella, Nick Brouillard, Samuel Blais, Frankie Le Pen as the goalie, Nick Suzuki, RHP, Julien Gauthier, Samuel Boduc, Jonathan Huberdeau, Christopher Letang, David Perron, and Zach Fucali. Maybe if you want to come down, they're playing on Tuesday. You and I will watch the game together.
Yeah, that's an impressive lineup, isn't it?
You want me to hook you up, see if we can get you in there and line up a couple of interviews for you?
Tomorrow?
No. Next week if you want.
Oh, it's next week?
No, they play every Tuesday.
Oh, every Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to come down next week, but if you do,
yeah,
you can hang out with me. I have an in now.
All right. What time do they play?
Yesterday they played a game at 5:15. It was over at 6. They played another one at 6:10. It was over by 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not an ideal time for me to.
It's not an ideal time. You'd have to get back at around 10 o'clock at night in Ottawa. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ponder it, Tony. I appreciate the heads up.
No
we
problem.
Can talk.
All right. Okay. Speaking of which, now Reinbacher. You have him as the number 2 prospect, but you mentioned that you thought Mailloux was much better at the development camp. A couple of days doesn't make a difference there. We get it.
No.
We found out that he was playing with, I think he was playing with a brace too, Reinbacher, which hindered his mobility a little bit.
All right.
We know what you thought before the draft and where you had him on your list, and you thought it was, no problem with the pick at the time. Based on what you've heard after the draft or anything, are there any concerns at all?
No. Other than just obviously the disease there. I guess you got to have minor concerns that it may keep getting inflamed and it may cause him to miss some games over the next couple of years. So I suppose there's minor concern with that, but I read up quite a bit on it, and as I'm sure you did too. Yeah, and it's just I think it's what it signals is that he's still growing. Like typically, it's kids that are still growing that have this issue.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So that's maybe in the end, long run, that's maybe going to be a positive that like he could be. And certainly, I talked to a couple of the Habs brass there, and the thinking is that he might not be done growing yet. So, throw another inch of height on there wouldn't hurt if he was 6'3" when it was all said and done.
So what do they do here, Grant? They check to see if the growth plates are still open. Is that what they do? Is that?
Yeah. I don't. It's beyond my medical knowledge, but
yeah, it's beyond my level of expertise too.
I know, just like Hudson there, he's still growing. Growth plates are still open, and if he does come and stay with you, Tony, he'll put on the weight, like you said.
100% he will. Yes, 100%.
He didn't give me an answer on that when you asked.
Listen, it'll be very easy. You want I'll show you one way he could gain the weight. You ready? Hold on a second.
This is sick.
Okay, I'm back. Very easy, okay? Would be very easy. We get them started with this.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Couple of these. Ice cream sandwich.
Oh my goodness, I had 2 of those today, Tony.
Oh, really? Eh? I prefer the cones, by the way. The cones with the chocolate inside, with the chocolate ice cream. But you know what? That will do. And this is my favorite. In the summertime, this is my favorite. But I have to tell you, I haven't been having a lot of this. I've been having a lot of water over the last 3 or 4 months. But this is my favorite. You know what this is, eh?
I can't really tell.
Okay.
Not peanut butter, is it?
Cold coffee.
Eh?
Cold coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like a slushy style. You know what I mean?
I thought you said Cole. I thought you said Cole Caulfield there for a second.
No, it's not. No, it's not Cole Caulfield. It's cold coffee. Cold coffee.
Okay.
So I got the. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you hear it, but I got the whole slush machine going on in the background right now.
Oh. Okay.
I got the coffee going, and then I pour it into one of these containers, and it comes out half solid, half liquidy. But you shake it up, and then look at this. You pour it in a glass. I'd have to show you. Now I got it. Now I got to show you. Hold on a second. We got to do this.
Okay.
I got to get a glass now. I got to, because you want to see what it looks like now, right? You definitely want to see what the coffee looks like, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Hold on a second.
I don't sing and dance. Sorry about that.
Send my son to go get me a glass. We're back.
Okay.
This is very important to me. It's my cold coffee is it's kind of it's one of my claims to fame. You know, I pride myself in making very good cold coffee.
Control told me to try to talk while you were while we had that dead, but like nothing came to mind.
Smaller one.
I'll never make it as a host.
There we go. There we go. See that? Yeah, they're gonna kill me that I left with and there was nobody talking. They're gonna look at that. All right, watch this, Grant.
Yeah, that dead time. It's all worth it, though, Tony.
Maguarda do. Grant, look at this.
I have to say that doesn't look very appealing.
It's one of the after La Bittt Tibi. It's probably the greatest thing you've ever tasted in your life.
Okay.
To the point where I have to get a patent on this, and I actually think that I'll end up making millions one day from my coffee. It's not going to happen with the podcast. It's going to happen with my coffee.
Okay.
My wife thinks I'm crazy, by the way, for drinking this at like 10:38 at night because I'm not going to sleep tonight. But little does she know, like that's the. So I ask her every night. I said, "Why don't you take a glass of cold coffee?" She goes, "No, I'm not going to sleep if I do so." And I said, "Well, precisely." But it never works. Anyway, all right, okay. So you mentioned that Joshua Roy could have been in the top 5. Yeah. And you mentioned that Engstrom could have been, and they're just out of that top 5 list. And then you talked about Kapanen. Didn't Kapanen suffer a concussion injury? He was the one that did, right? Didn't he suffer a concussion that looked pretty bad in one of his games, or am I mistaking him with somebody else?
In his draft year?
Yeah, was it in his draft year, or that he suffered a concussion?
Well, he got hit into the boards.
Yeah,
pretty hard.
Yeah,
kind of got stretchered off or whatever.
Yeah. But I think maybe that probably just worried some of. Now, listen.
He should have been picked higher than he got picked. That's for sure.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a big tournament and first game, and everybody was really looking forward to seeing him because the North American guys don't get to see these guys too much, other than the U18 events. And he got crunched into the boards in the first game, and a lot of guys were pretty upset that they didn't get to see him. And actually, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise for the Canadians because there's no way that he should have been a late second round pick. He he should have been a first-round pick, as things have turned out. He's just for me, he's the most underrated Habs prospect with Engstrom a close second.
So where's he going to be in the depth chart when all is said and done? Oliver Kapanen. Where do you see him in the Canadiens lineup?
I think he's a consummate third-line center with second-line center upside if everything comes together. He's got a great shot. He's got some good offensive skills.
Wow.
So smart. He's just super smart. Good size. He's got the whole package. I really, all he has to do is keep getting stronger, but the skating has come with that. But for me, he's an all-around centerman that the coaches are going to love, I think, when he gets over here.
66 Spinning says, say hello to Grant McCagg for me. Remember our last discussion together. So that's Stéphane in Quebec Cité who says hello. Colton Dock from Chicago for Logan Mailloux is a trade proposal by Roy Anderson. To that you say what, Grant McCagg?
Colton Dock?
Yeah.
What, just so he can have two Docks?
I would imagine.
It is cottage season. I guess having two Docks would be nice,
Yeah.
Tie a boat to each one, But Colton. I don't know that Colton Dock's even going to play in the NHL. I mean, Snake could do it probably tomorrow. Like Quentin Musty for Mailloux. Do you think?
Yeah. Snake would do Quentin. He'd give up the whole team for Quentin Musty. He loved Quentin Musty.
Yeah, but not more than Reinbacher. He liked Reinbacher was just ahead of him, so he must really like I said to.
Yeah, he likes Reinbacher.
Yeah, he must like Reinbacher if he even had him ahead of Musty,
Now Owen Beck. So I don't know if it's a fair question, but I'll ask it anyway. You'll understand. I know you're very strong with your opinions. I love that about you. I tend to think that I'm kind of that way too. Snake's kind of that way too. And sometimes people love the fact that we're so opinionated, and sometimes they think we're crazy. That's okay. As long as they listen and watch my show, I'm happy. Does the way the Canadiens brass or some members of the brass feel about these players influence you maybe a little bit as to where you probably would have seen them on your depth chart before talking to them? The reason why I ask is you brought up Rob Ramage's name, right? I know that Ramage is the president of the Owen Beck fan club, correct?
Yeah, I guess.
And he's very high on Oliver Kapanen too. So does it have any bearing on maybe you had them 6, 7, but a couple of people like him, and now all of a sudden they're 5-4?
No, I didn't actually really consider that. It's my own opinion.
I hear you. No, and by all means, I'm not saying that you had him 20th and they liked him, so you put him in the top 5.
No, I know what you're saying.
Is it possible there were 6, 7, but now all of a sudden, you know what? Maybe I can move him down a spot or two because.
Well, I haven't talked to Rammer about prospects since last February.
Got it.
February of 22, actually. So
is that right? Eh?
Yeah, I mean, I had a quick discussion with him, and we exchanged the odd email, but as far as like just sitting down, and we're going to sit down in August here and have an interview again, and I'm also going to talk to Marty Lapointe. So that's two interviews that I'm going to have in August. So, $250.
You know what I've been working on?
$2.50.
You know what I've been working on?
No.
I've been working on an interview. I'd love to have him on the podcast with someone whose name you brought up earlier tonight in the podcast. Can you guess who that is?
Really?
Yeah. Dale Hunter.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm trying to get Dale Hunter on the podcast, and
that'd be great.
It's taking a little bit of time, but I mean, it's a while that I've been thinking about, you know what? There's so many different opinions on Mailloux. I mean, well, if there's one guy who knows him better than anybody else, Dale Hunter knows Logan Mailloux's game better than anybody else in the world, right?
Yeah. Even Mark could be a good, former Montreal Canadian.
Yeah, Mark Hunter, who's obviously the GM of the of the London Knights. I put in the request for either or, to tell you the truth. I put in the request for either or, but those two guys, like, they know him like the back of their hand, right?
Yeah, no, that'd be great. But just to get back to my plug now, because you just like you pay $250 for the next month, and in the next month, I'm going to have Rob Ramage's interview up there. I'm going to have Marty Lapointe's interview up there, and then rookie camp starts, and we'll be covering that with a fine-tooth comb as well. And the season gets going. It's
a steal, Grant. Grant, it's a steal. I'll say it for you. It's a steal. Come on, everybody know it's a steal.
Check it out for $2.50, and
it's a steal.
That's my. I don't plug it too often, but I'm excited about this change to the monthly, because I think it'll inspire people. What's $2.50, right?
Grant, I'm glad you gave it a plug, and you work so hard. This is how you make your living, and I have no problem with you plugging it. It's quality, and I think it's a steal. Why don't we take 3 questions before we say goodbye? I so appreciate your time. Agnello and Sammy at Master Control. There we go. Ask Grant what he thinks of Jaden Struble. Says Kook 69 or Cuckoo K69.
Well, Cuckoo, I think he's unfortunately, there's numbers game that might prevent him from playing on the Canadians. If Arbor Jacki hadn't come along, if there was no Arbor Jacki in the organization right now that's already ahead of him, that's already played a year in the NHL, then I would think that there is a spot for him for sure.
Yeah.
I think he can play in the NHL. I think he's got that's not the cold coffee you got in that you're spraying on.
No, just water.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You don't like it that much that you would spray it on your hair. Okay.
Yeah.
No, Struble, he's got a great I think he can be a shutdown guy in the AHL, and that's what he'll have to be first. And if he can prove that, and become a stalwart on Laval's defense, and keep hitting like he did in college, and play a steady game, simple game, concentrate on defense. He's got NHL potential all day. There's so many left defensemen on the Canadians and in the system. Like Hudson's going to come along and be ahead of him. Engstrom's ahead of him on the depth chart right now.
Yeah.
They've got Jacki, Gooley, on and on. So I think it's going to be tough for him to crack the Canadians lineup.
Yeah.
If they don't trade away some others.
Yeah.
He might be a valuable trading chip in a year or two if he can't crack the Canadians, because I do think that he can play in the league. It just may not be in Montreal.
I have a great nickname for Cuckoo. Cuckoo et Mositu. All right, okay. Second question. Let's bring it up. Where does Beck fit in if Kapanen is our third line center?
Yeah. Well, maybe he's a second line center. He could also be on the wing, but he's such a good face-off man. Certainly early in their careers, it's quite conceivable that they're the third and fourth centers.
Yeah.
But there's also centers always move to the wings, right? You get Yeah, I mean, it'll be happening this year. Either Newhook or Doc will be on the wing, even though they're technically centers.
Or Monahan.
And yeah, well, Monahan's good on faceoffs. I can't see him not playing center because the other two guys are 40% guys.
Yeah,
A lot will be dependent on who's winning more faceoffs at the NHL level between Kapanen and Beck. I think they'll battle it out, and could be 3-4. And if Owen Beck's your fourth line center, wow, that's going to be the team is going to be so strong at that point. If Kapanen and Beck are your 3-4s, because both of them are middle line center potential all day long.
When Beck's going to end up being on the team, I have a feeling that Jake Evans will not, but I could be wrong. Stranger things have happened. Third and final question. Let's throw it out there, but not before we get to Murphy Clinic, an aesthetic clinic specializing in medical aesthetic care. They offer permanent laser hair removal, as well as a wide range of treatments for skin problems such as acne, rosacea, fine lines, and more. They currently have 2 clinics, one located in Montreal Shop Angus, and the second on the North Shore in Terrebonne. They're also opening soon in Quebec City. Visit murphyclinic.ca or on Instagram at Murphy Clinic. I'm so good at my job. It's unbelievable. All right, let's get to the third and final question.
Yeah.
Reinbacher, does he have the killer instinct? This coming from Matrix is real.
Yeah. What's the killer instinct? Do you know what the killer instinct is, Tony?
I have no idea what that killer instinct is. Is he asking if he's a mean machine, if he's Jack the Giant, or is he asking if he has the ability to break open a game? Either or. I don't know about you. I'm going to say he doesn't have a killer instinct. He has an ability to kill plays.
Yeah.
But
that wouldn't be how I describe him,
Yeah.
So I don't think his nickname's going to be Killer Killer Reinbacher when he joins the team. But I think he's, like, did Serge Savard have the killer instinct? No, probably not.
Yeah.
But he's in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know that's. I'd say no to that, but that doesn't mean that he isn't going to be a premier NHL defenseman.
You know who was premier back in the day? He was a premier tough guy in the National Hockey League, George Larac. But he's about 13 or 14 years removed. And today he's 46 and a half years old. Grant, I have a question for you in ending. I have one. If George Larac would make a comeback in the National Hockey League today, let's not talk about the pace of the game or the speed of the game. At 46 and a half years old, and the last time he played was about 13 years ago. How do you think he'd do in a fight with Ryan Reeves or McDermott? Am I putting you on the spot here?
Like today? Not 13 years ago?
Not
George
13 years
Larac?
ago. Right now, taking Larac at 46 and a half years old and putting him in the National Hockey League. Do you think he would still be the number one tough guy in the league at 46 and a half?
That's a great question. I don't know.
He's hesitating. Was it too much?
Like George Foreman was a heavyweight champ at about 46, was he not?
Listen, that's a good point.
That's
a good point. Well, I asked because George was on the podcast a couple of days ago, and he said that he's convinced that if he was in the league today, at his age, even after 13 years, that he would be the number one tough guy in the league. He then took it a step further and said that Dave Brown in his 60s would still be the number one tough guy in the league too. And I believe he said in his 60s.
Well, Dave Brown was an animal, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I have him top 3 all time. And George is close,
Who do you have in your top 3? Bob Probert, Dave Brown, and George Larac?
Ben Wilson.
Ben Wilson, eh?
Oh, scary man.
Yeah, he can throw them.
Yeah, he was tough and crazy, which was a lethal combination.
Yeah.
Jimmy Poplinski told me some stories about him there. He was, very revered in his day. You didn't mess with Ben.
Stu Grimson was a pretty tough guy.
Oh, yeah. There's Gillies, you can name a pile of them. But, my top three are Brown, Probert, and Benny Wilson. And George is right up there too, obviously.
He's top 5, yeah?
Maybe. I know it wasn't really I don't know at the end of his career if he was still winning all his fights.
Yeah.
He didn't fight as much.
In his peak, and we know that Bob Probert in his peak was an animal, but in his peak, Tony Twist was really something. For a couple of years, for 3 or 4 years, Tony Twist was something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could go on naming. There's just so many of them. Like Nick Fotiu was Golden Gloves boxer, and all of these guys, lost fights. Yeah, at some point or another. Of course, and like even Domi was he had such a hard head. Like you'd see these fights where, Probert and these guys would be just smashing his head and it just cement.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone take a punch better than Ty Domi.
No, Stan Jonathan, those two guys. I mean, that famous fight with Pierre Bouchard. Yeah, that was Bouchard was feeding it to him. Yeah, and it was it's like hitting cement. Yeah. And then Jonathan got that one punch in that got down Bouchard, and then he punched his head into that's why he bled so much. Like they talk about, he won the fight so bad. Well, what he did was he suckered him when he was down and hit his head into the ice, and that's what caused all the blood. Yeah, you give it to Jonathan, but it was the punch on the ice that led to all the blood. Yeah, no, I hear you. Man, this is there were so many. Larry Playfair was a tough out. He was a tough boy. He was a tough boy too. Yeah, I went back. If you ever seen the Knuckles scrap with Playfair, he didn't. Yeah, they had some good ones. Knuckles just was not nearly as big as Larry Playfair, No. And he handled himself quite admirably considering the size difference. Oh, for sure. Joey Kosher was a tough piece of business too, and And anyway, there were once again we can play this game forever. There were so many, it's unbelievable. But I enjoyed when Kordic was doing his thing because he would he had like really fast, quick lefts and there were so many obviously. Brashear, Donald Brashear and tough boy. Yeah. Tough boy. Hey, Grant, this was a lot of fun. Maybe one day we'll end up doing a podcast on tough guys, but of course, all the guys speaking of taking a punch, Jay Miller could take a punch. Yeah. John Kordic used to hit him with about 50 of them, and he never flinched. And I said that Ty Domi could take a punch, and he could. But actually, one night in Toronto, Ontario boy Shane Corson got one good shot in on Ty Domi, and he went down. I don't know if he lost his footing, but he went down. And meanwhile, the whole time, though, Domi was swinging Corson around there. He's so strong, Ty Domi. It's unbelievable. Yeah. It was a great tilt. It really was a great tilt. And I think this was a great podcast. Grant, thank you so much. Recruits.ca, independent hockey scout, watches a couple of hundred games per year, watches the prospects, has reports on all these prospects, as a top 30 Montreal Canadiens prospects out there right now. In the next month, he's going to be talking to Rob Ramage of the Montreal Canadiens. He's going to be talking to Marty Lapointe. He's going to have a bunch of articles that are going to be out there as well. And now a monthly subscription for a couple of bucks per month. You get a monthly subscription. What's the worst that can happen? You don't want to be back. It costs you $2 or $3. Chances are you'll be back. You'll love it so much. Thank you, Grant. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Tony. You're very welcome. There you have it. If you like the podcast tonight, like it, share it with your friends. Comment sick, S-I-C-K. If you're going to listen to it on Google, Apple, or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. It's our way of feeling the love. 4 spruces tonight, 4 times the water in the hair. Let's go for one more. Why don't we? Foreign Yellow and Sammy at Master Control. They're Cavallaro. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Bittt, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.